Welcome to The Friday Habit with Mark Labriola and Benjamin Manley. The Friday Habit is for small business owners, freelancers, and creatives who are ready to take their business to the next level. Join us as we discover how to apply the strategies we learned to grow our businesses, make more money, and live every day like it's Friday. Dance party Friday.
Right.
You know, because we do dance parties at our office on Fridays.
Every Friday, right? That's part of the Friday habit.
That's right.
Get out the disco ball.
My Friday habit is wearing yoga pants exclusively or no pants.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just like sitting in a chair at your computer.
Yep.
No pants day.
I remember there was that, you know, when COVID first took place, there was a time when it was kind of like when you had so many virtual meetings back to back, starting first thing in the morning, it was kind of like, do I put regular pants on or just wear my flannel jammy pants?
Oh my gosh. That brings me back to like when you would see people stand up and they're wearing like gym shorts on the bottom and suit on top.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, my life hasn't changed, so it's exactly that. I'm wearing gym shorts on the bottom right now.
That's awesome. That is great. Well, hey, we're excited. Today we have a great episode with the founder of Tiny Marketing, Sarah Noel Block, and she is going to make some big statements about tiny marketing.
Big and bold.
That's right. So Sarah, welcome to the Friday Habit. Thanks for being here and hanging out with us and sharing some of your gold.
Happy to be here. I love a good process. I'm excited we get to talk about that.
Yeah, when Ben sent over your website and your contact information, I was looking into it and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great. Ben is a master at systems and processes. He is.
I know.
He is amazing at it. Like the way that his brain works. Like I love his brain. Like I just want to like hug his brain.
You only love me for my brain, Mark.
I also want to hug his brain because I hired his company to do my website and I just fell in love with the process I went through. And I was like, Savannah, tell me everything. I need to know absolutely everything so I can replicate this.
Yeah, it is the best. And the thing that I've learned from Ben over the years is that you can have a lot more growth and success if you stop being chaotic and last minute and flying by the seat of your pants, and you actually create a process and a system to everything that you do. I think that business, especially run by creatives, people who are creative thinkers, a lot of times fail because they don't ever stop to look at what they're doing, why they do what they do, and then document what they do, or document why they do what they do. And I've seen so many people come and go because they just can't really nail that aspect. And it's always starting from scratch every single time a new client approaches them. It's like, okay, creating a new proposal and going through all these steps, which causes a lot of headache and stress and anxiety. And so, yeah, Ben has been such an inspiration to me over the past years and helped me to really dial in what we do here at Brand Viva, and has inspired me to take action on creating those systems and processes. And so I would love, Sarah, if you would kind of talk to us a little bit about where you came from, how you got into business, how you got into the business of helping people, and what is your brain? I want to hug your brain by the end of this podcast.
Well, I started off in marketing. I've always been in marketing from the very beginning. And what kind of was like, if I were a superhero, my origin story, I was the head of marketing for a 7-company group. And that was pure chaos. I had to figure out how to be systemized like Ben and make that work when I had 7 presidents I had to answer to. And it was only me to handle it. So I started building out my processes then. And that's when I developed what's now the Tiny Marketing Framework. And now I bring all of my clients through that to just make it easy, because I only work with small teams that are like 0 to 2 people.
That's awesome. When you started, I remember when I first started Brand Viva, I remember I had a whiteboard and I would just write keywords on the whiteboard, like for client names. And then I could be working at my desk and I could look up at the whiteboard and kind of know where I was at. But if I didn't write on that whiteboard, I would have a lot of anxiety and worry about, am I getting all the things done I need to get done? And even the whiteboard became a source of anxiety, because then it was like there was so many details that were associated with these keywords and different clients. And as I grew, it was kind of like you're spinning all these plates, and then all of a sudden like a plate falls and then a client's like, hey, how come you didn't get back to me? And I was like, oh crap, I was supposed to get back to you and I forgot to. And so what for you're having to report to 7 different presidents, and where did you start as far as, did you have a lot of anxiety and worries?
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, I need to take this spaghetti and start making some lasagna.
Yeah. That's where.
Does that make sense? Spaghetti's kind of all, and then lasagna is like flat noodles.
Spaghetti's messy. Lasagna is structured and layered. Get it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. It was pure chaos. And originally it was kind of like what you were saying. It was a lot of notebooks with ideas, and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. It was too messy. It was no structure or really strategy in place, because my brain could never focus in on one thing, because someone would come up to me and I'd have to focus on something else.
Right.
So I'll just tell you the framework, like the basics of the framework real quick. It's streamline, systematize, automate, outsource. And in automation, I would also add AI. But that streamline element of it is creating a really streamlined marketing strategy that's for a single customer, a single offer, and then building your strategy around that. And then once I did that, and you can templatize that, I was able to do that for each of those companies. And then it was like, okay, that's my task list. That's what I need to do. And it made it so much easier. And then just, in the systemize part, it's templates. It's having a great project management tool that's synced with my calendar. And time blocking is huge. I know you guys do that, Ben. Time blocking helps so much, and batching. All of those things just made it work.
Yeah. What, so you were doing this for other people, or you're working for a company, doing it for a company. At what point did you decide to jump off and do your own thing and help small businesses and individuals do this?
It started a little at a time, because
you were like just side hustle, like a little bit of side hustle here.
Yeah, I side hustled for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because, during the Great Recession, I got laid off like a bunch of other people. And I was like, I'm never, ever going to have one stream of income again. That is madness to rely on a company for my livelihood. Yeah. So when that happened, I was able to get a job right away, but I also started building my freelance business and doing that on the side for the next decade while I was still like, high level head of marketing for companies. I didn't care. I was still not relying on them. Yeah. And then COVID, my company really wanted me to stay, but with my kids in virtual school, and I had enough freelance clients that would make up my salary, it just made sense to jump then. And it was a great time to do it too, because everyone else was like, I need to go from this analog approach to marketing to digital, and I don't know how to do it. So it was really easy. And I decided 6 months beforehand what my jump date would be.
Okay.
And I just spent that time filling my client roster. So by the time I left, I was able to make up my salary. My old company, actually 2 of my old companies, came on as clients.
Oh,
and
awesome.
I was able to do it. So COVID was the
catalyst that pushed you forward. I think that was for a lot of people the same kind of thing. And then one of the things that really was helpful was that the virtual aspect that COVID introduced. A lot of times I always felt like, oh, I have to have a studio or I need to meet people in person. And those kind of things went away. Once you could meet virtually, so many people were more willing and open. It wasn't like, oh, you don't have a massive studio somewhere. It's like, oh yeah, I'm used to just meeting virtually. And now we're getting clients from all over the place opposed to just locally, because it was one of those things where now we can just meet in person virtually and everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, everyone got used to that. I think two things happened right around that time. One, COVID. So everybody became a lot more comfortable with that. Like you can work from home and it's fine. They got more comfortable with the casualness of it. Like my kids might walk in and you're going to be fine with it, and I'm going to be fine if it happens to
and
you.
you're not stressed. Like, get out of here. Remember that CNN was like a CNN?
Yes, I do remember that.
That dude's on the video like to the whole world, and his kid's coming in, and then the wife's like, or the nanny or somebody's like grabbing the kid by the leg, and he's like in a business suit.
Oh, isn't he the one who got up and he was the one wearing the gym shorts?
Like shorts or something on.
Yeah. But around that same time, I think maybe a year later is when AI started to come out. And everyone started using it. It was like huge. But then everything got really polished and same. So it also started a trigger event where people started to crave real, raw content. So more casual content, leaving in the flubs on podcasts and videos. Seeing the more human side also started emerging at that time because I think we craved that more.
Totally. Yeah, that's one of my fears with AI really is if AI has taken the world's knowledge in order to build itself to this point, but then all the world's knowledge going forward is going to be built by AI.
From like 2021.
Yeah, AI is like learning from itself. And so it's not taking some unique creative idea that's spun up by somebody, but it's and don't get me wrong. I mean, I love AI. It has revolutionized how I do business, and it has extremely helped me when it comes to writing proposals and helping me Ben, he has like conversations with AI to be like, hey, let's brainstorm some business ideas.
Yeah, it's my assistant. I train GPTs to be my assistant. And I'll train them on tone of voice. I'll train them on what kind of customer I'm working on. So it helps me work so much faster.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, is using it as a tool to help you work faster. And then not just expecting it to do the work for you, but then going back through. I think a lot of times I see what it feels like someone just copied and pasted.
It's so obvious.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I don't think you really talk like that. But it's really important. I know for me, when I use it as a tool, I will then go back through and then I will change the voice to be more like me. Or sometimes it doesn't want to put in an exclamation point and a smiley face, or because that's not grammatically correct. But I'm like, no, that's how I would send this, so I go back in and do that. So yeah, so let's talk a little bit, like kind of maybe go deeper into each one of these aspects of the framework. So we have the streamline, systematize, automate, and then outsource. As far as outsourcing goes, do you expect someone to essentially offload things that they're not good at, or things that maybe they shouldn't be spending their time on?
Yeah, I'll just look at, like, we'll go through the Eisenhower chart and be like, what doesn't work for you? Because I'm working with either founders with no marketing department or really small marketing departments that just don't have the capacity. And they're like, oh, okay, I love this podcast, is doing great, but I don't have the time to edit. It takes me 10 times longer to edit this audio than it would someone on Fiverr, for example. So that's a time I'm going to be like, okay, it's not going to cost that much to be able to outsource that. We'll just look at those pieces that will save you so much, like, peace of mind, time and money to have someone else do, because it's way more expensive sometimes for you to try and do it yourself.
Yeah, totally. Well, and that's the thing that I have to always remind myself of too. It's like, okay, if I do this thing, like my time is worth, say, like $150 an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm doing a $30 an hour task that's taking me 5 hours to do, I'm losing so much money.
Yes, that's exactly how I calculate it too. I'll go through it and I'll be like, these are the things I absolutely hate doing and take me forever because I'm
Mhm.
not that good at it. And then I'll calculate, does it make sense for me to DIY it, or
Right.
should I just outsource that?
And I think that's hard too, especially when you've built something. You feel like you're the only person who knows how to do it a certain way.
Yeah.
Or I know that for me, there's like a level of excellence and quality that I'm always like trying to achieve. And I never feel like things are good enough. And sometimes there's an aspect I have to let that go, because done is better than perfect,
Mhm.
and good enough sometimes is good enough.
Yeah.
And if I obsess about something, or if I don't allow someone on my team to do something because I'm like, all right, I just want it to be perfect, then it kind of hinders the whole process and slows things down. And then stuff gets bottlenecked with me. And so it's more of like just learning how to let things go. And then I think as a business owner and someone who our brand is built on excellence and quality, where I'm always just trying to train the team or talk the team through like, okay, hey, this was good. Like, oh, I'm going to let this one go, but maybe next time think about doing it this way, or trying to make it look like X, Y, and Z. And just trying to empower people to grow too as individuals, because if I'm trying to just control and do everything, then no one has the opportunity to grow.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from too. And training can take so much time. So it's like, oh, it'd be faster if I did it myself, but it'd be maybe this time. But if you continue not training other people to do it, then it's forever your problem.
That's true. Yeah. So with your framework, so there's streamline, systematize, automate, and outsource. Could we walk through like maybe an example of a company? I don't know if you want to pick one, or I can come up with an example, but like a company that we could think about, like, all right, what would it look like for it to be streamlined, systematize, automate, and outsource? We could do like a lawn care business, or I think of like my company story site where we do like template sales, or we could do Mark's agency. Any of those?
I don't know. Which one do you guys want to go with?
What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, dealer's choice, Ben.
All right, let's just do lawn care business.
Okay.
That's something everybody could probably kind of get an idea.
Yeah, I have a buddy who has a lawn care business, so I'm going to be like, Quentin, listen to this episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're getting a free strategy here.
You get some strategy from Sarah.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's say this lawn care business, it's a founder and staff. They don't have a marketing department. So we're relying on the founder to be the marketer.
Right.
The first thing I would do working with them is what I call the strategic story. And it's an all-in-one messaging, content, and marketing strategy. So I'll start with the customer avatar, and I'll interview a few of their very favorite customers that just love the work that they're doing, and it feels easy because it's so aligned. I'll interview them, and then I'll build out a messaging, marketing, and content strategy based off of those interviews. So with that, I'll include that 1x5 marketing strategy we talked about before we hit record. And that would be like one customer avatar, one offer, one core content. So what is the thing that you're willing to create consistently? One lead offer and one lead magnet. So how are you bringing people in, and how are you, a lead offer would be like a low cost, high value product to bring people in and build that trust.
Okay. All right. That is so much good information. I don't want to like gloss over that. So can we take those one by one? So you said one customer avatar. Let's talk about that. What does that look like for a lawn care business? Like maybe it's like, oh, I'm going to specifically serve ladies over 50, or I'm going to serve people that own apartment complexes only and work with property managers, or what would that look like?
Yeah, it could look like either of those, but it really depends on the company. But what I would be looking at, what is triggering them to look for this in the first place? What problem are they dealing with? What objections are they talking about on sales calls? Why wouldn't they go forward with you? What are the competitive alternatives? If they didn't go with you, what would they do? Would they mow their own lawn? Would they hire a neighbor kid?
Right.
And why would they choose you over that? So I look at those things and what are their goals? What do they ultimately want? They probably want their neighbors to be like, damn, that's a nice looking yard.
Make your neighbors jealous. There's your messaging right there. All right. I like that. Okay. So people who want their house and their yard to look better than their neighbors.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more specific than that.
It could be more specific than that. That's why we have those conversations with the actual customers, so we know exactly what's working.
All right. Let's pick one. Let's go with one. What if it's let's go with somebody that owns like multiple properties, like a lawn care business that serves like maybe apartment complexes, because that seems pretty scalable to me. So what if we go with that as a customer avatar, maybe property management companies?
Okay. So we're talking about property. Actually, I work with a lot of facilities companies that sell to property managers. So
okay. You got some insight on it.
Really similar to that.
Cool. All right.
So I would have conversations with them to figure out all of those elements to it and like where do they spend time online. But like a huge driver is when you have a problem, what do you do first? Do you go to Google? Do you talk to the people in your network? Finding out all of these things will drive like what one platform should you be on online. You don't have to be on every social media platform. You can choose one. We can figure it out from that. What kind of content do you consume? And then that can be the core content. And, with a lawn care business, who knows? It could just be one social media channel that could work.
Right. Okay. So just to make sure I'm understanding. So we got one customer avatar. What was the second piece of it?
Yeah, we have one customer avatar. We have one core channel.
Okay. So that would be what you're talking about. Like maybe it could be social media,
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or Google My Business, or could it be physical, like mailers and door knockers?
Yeah, it could be any of those things. Okay. I usually like to, like in the lead generation aspect of it, I'll look at like, are there any communities that make sense to spend time in? Because that's a huge part of lead generation is just building those relationships. So I try and bring biz dev into each one of those elements. So we're driving more people to it. So like the core channel would usually be like distribution channel. Where do we spend time and where does our customer hang out online? So that would more likely be a community or social media channel. And then the core content. And that is what content can you produce on a regular basis? So it might be a live stream show, a podcast, a webinar series, or like one of those cool new newsletters. You know how they're huge right now using like Beehive? It could be that. And you can repurpose that on your website and have it on there. And then in the lead generation aspect, it would be a lead magnet and a lead offer. How do we bring people in with that smaller trust building offer?
Okay. So in our example, so we have property managers. Let's say our core channel is, I guess it could be like you're saying, maybe it's like a monthly webinar, or maybe it's like a conference. Would a conference count as a core channel? If it's like, hey, we have an annual conference, or is that not big enough for
it would be a core content.
Okay.
It would, because you're producing content when you're doing an event. So it would probably fall under that. And then like a core channel for a landscaping business that's selling to property managers would likely be LinkedIn, because that's where a lot of property managers spend their time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If it was a consumer that you're looking at, usually it's older people who are willing to spend on the landscaping. Facebook is exactly what came to mind.
Yeah, it's shocking to me, Facebook actually, just the large audience that's on there for especially older demographic. It's like I'll go to someone's page, say on Instagram, and it's got like 1,500 followers on it or something like that. Then I'll go to their Facebook page and they have like 20,000 followers on
Yeah.
Facebook. I'm like, okay, they should really be putting their time and energy obviously over here, because this is where people are connecting with them.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you only need one. Where are your
Right.
people hanging out? But like
Yeah.
a landscaping company, it could be next door. It could be neighbors, apps
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah,
Right.
you never know until you talk to your customers.
that's right.
Right.
Communication is key.
So let's say you had a property manager, that's their customer avatar, and then you got the core channel, maybe is LinkedIn. Core content maybe could be a podcast, because you could generate video from a podcast, you could generate audio clips, and then maybe something else. Would that count as like core content potentially? That
That would count as
distribute?
core content.
Okay. And then from there in the podcast, when you talk about lead generators, maybe it's like some type of informational product or something like that from there. That's like, hey, here's the top ways to save money as a property manager or something like that. I don't know. Is that the type of thing would be from there? Some type of lead generator they could like download from the podcast?
Yeah.
Or would it be separate.
No, I connect everything.
Yeah.
Content funnel should be like, I think of it like distribution would be that core content and on
Right.
that core channel. But then you want it to get a little bit more intimate. So you bring it a little bit closer. It might be virtual events, which could be a lead generator. It could be a
That's a good
report.
idea.
Yeah. So for property managers, I think doing like a survey-based research and a report could be really helpful. So other property managers can understand what they're doing to save money or to be more efficient in their job. But that always does really well. Like, what is everyone else doing? Do they know something I
Yeah.
don't?
Like, what's their profit margins? What are their biggest expenses? What are their worries right now? Like, what are they focusing on in their business? What do they see the future?
I would download that.
Yeah, no, that sounds really helpful. And then from there, then you have like your lead generator, and then you would have one offer. So you're saying maybe like an entry level offering of like, hey, maybe we don't take over all your lawn care at first, but maybe we take care of your, I don't know, weed problem or something. Like, hey, we'll maintain all your landscaping or something
Or
like
get
that.
an estimate on how we can save you 20% or something like that.
Yeah, or like a consultation where they go there and they'll show them everything that they could do that would make their property easier to maintain.
Okay, yeah, like lower your maintenance costs kind of consultation or something like that.
That would drive people in. You'd be one-on-one with the company, so you have that opportunity to get that know, like, trust down.
Right.
Yeah, those are always good.
The thing that's really cool about this, and I mean, this is probably why you do it, but the thing I appreciate about it is that it's so focused and so strategic, because I think what the tendency is for me and probably other people too is that you have all these random ideas on how to market, but they're not all tied in together like you're saying, where there's a funnel strategically taking them on a journey. And especially for a small company, speaking of tiny marketing, it's like you don't have the time or ability to maintain all those and do a good job with all of them. So you really need to focus and be like, all right, I got to focus in on one specific type of person and figure out where they are. What can I give them that's helpful information? How do I get them to reach out to me? And then how do I convert them into a customer? Basically, it sounds like is what you're saying.
That is exactly it.
Yeah.
That is exactly why I designed it this way for this group of people.
Yeah.
But then do you think you could do more? So with the whole system, though, say the lawn care company services property managers, right? But then they also want to service the individual, the single home, and they also want to service larger
sports fields, parks.
Yeah, like larger organizations or businesses or something like that to service their grounds. Are you saying that it's beneficial to essentially create a system for each one of these aspects of your business? Or are you saying like, no, get rid of all those and just focus on one?
No, I'm not saying that. I work with a few companies that work with multiple customer avatars. You need to create the strategic story for each of those avatars, so you have a really simple and streamlined way to reach them. Depends how big your audience or your company is, though, on if you can actually handle marketing that much. But once you have those, then you can pull them all into the systematize, automate, outsource elements. So you can make it as simple as possible, even though you have to do all of those elements for each of them. It's still a little bit easier because you have a system in place.
Well, I was going to say, and I think this is brilliant because it's a chunk that's easier to bite off to start with if you haven't really been doing strategic marketing yet, because you can start with just one. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to say no to other stuff. I think that's a big fear for people when they start specializing, is saying no to other business. But I think you could start doing this and strategically market to these people without turning down on their business at first. And then once you build this up, you may be like, man, now that the cool thing about this too is that if you're marketing to one customer avatar, then you can kind of systemize your other operations around what that avatar wants too. Because your systems to maintain a sports field versus property management company may be slightly different, or at least with some companies. I know for me with web design, doing different types of companies, web design does change up the process a little bit depending on the company.
Yeah.
So it seems like a good way to start. And then from there, like you said, hey, if you're killing it with that one avatar all the way down, then from there, it gives you the opportunity to do that again. But it's almost like you've created a template, like what you're saying, where you've created this template of, now we've done this. Now let's duplicate our lead generator, swap out the images and text. And then we kind of have a new version of what we've done before that we know works.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you have a completely customer avatar or a completely different customer avatar, you'll need to do that strategic story over for them because they might need something completely different from you. But do the math. Do the math with it. What's the most profitable thing? Like maybe your package is so much more expensive with a sports field. But then when you do the math and you figure out how much time it takes, what equipment you need, it might not be profitable. So figure out what's actually profitable and what's worth doing.
Yeah.
So speaking of profit, I'm curious because you work with a lot of onesie twosies, very small teams or small, companies that maybe are themselves doing the marketing. What is your advice or strategy, right? When someone doesn't have $10,000 a month for ad spend to reach an audience, what do you tell people? Then they say, hey, I got $300 a month to spend or hardly anything. What's your strategy for that?
Yeah. The system that I'm telling you about today, you could do with no money.
Okay.
If you wanted to do it yourself, you don't have to spend anything. And if you're first starting out and you have no audience, my advice is to borrow other people's audiences and do webinar swaps, get brand partnerships, podcast guesting, and start to borrow the audiences from the channel, your core channel that you're going to be on, and build your reputation there and your audience there. Once you've done that, then everything else will get a lot easier. But borrow other people's audiences first.
Borrow.
It's free.
I like that. Yeah, totally. And I think that's huge as far as, especially when I think with podcasting, right? It's, we have so many times where people come on to our show and we share those episodes out, and then other people within those other people's networks find us and the things that we do. And
it happens all the time. I have an Airtable where I track where my leads are coming from that I'm just manually doing to figure it out. And podcast guesting is number 2 on the list.
That's awesome. I love that you have an Airtable. That sounds like something Ben would be doing.
Yep.
With a dashboard.
Yeah. What's that program that you use?
Notion.
Yeah. Notion. Yeah. He's like, I've created a Notion that's links to 10 different, algorithms.
All the wikis.
Okay. This is a side note, but my son, Jack, he was like, hey, Dad, what's that thing you're using? It's called Notion. Next thing I knew, the next day, he had created his own Notion account. He was like, hey, Dad, look, here's all my scout requirements in a Notion I created with all the merit badges I need to earn to get Eagle. I was like, what have I done? And also, I'm so proud.
Oh, my gosh. I love that. By the way, my older son's name is Jax.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
Mine, 10 and almost 8.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I got 16, 13, and 11. So
nice.
14 and 11 over here. Yep.
I know, Sarah, when you were like, oh yeah, I was doing this for a decade, I was like, you don't even look old enough to have kids
Oh, trust me,
or
I
have been
am.
in the marketing business for decades. That's awesome. Well, listen, this has been such an enlightening conversation, and I feel like we need to have you back on the show to talk about other things, tools and techniques, and so much stuff that we really couldn't get to in this episode. Ben, I would love if you would give me your top takeaways from today's episode.
I would be happy to do so. I'd say the few things that you said really stood out, Sarah, were the marketing framework that you have, Tiny Marketing Framework, which is streamline, systematize, automate, and outsource. And you can correct me if I get any of this wrong.
That's right.
And then the other thing you said I'm going to remember is picking one customer avatar, one core channel, one core content, one lead generator, and one lead offer to get people through. And then a couple of things that stood out were you said that when your customer has a problem, you ask them where do they go first to solve that problem. And then finally, you said, if you don't have an audience, borrow other people's audiences. Get on a podcast, do guest speaking, stuff like that.
Boom.
That's right.
There you have it. We like to leave people with one action item, something that they can focus on next week to help them in their business. What would that one thing be that you see out there, especially with small businesses, that they can start doing tomorrow in order to have results?
I would say the first thing to do is audit your offers and see which ones are the most profitable so you can figure out what makes sense to market and pay attention to.
I love that. Audit your offers. Where can people connect with you if they want to find out more about what you do, work with you, all that?
I spend my time on LinkedIn, and I have a podcast, Tiny Marketing Pod, you can listen to. And I'll put together a landing page for your show. It'll be sarahnoelblock.com/Friday.
All right. Fire. Sounds good. Well, awesome. Hey, thanks so much for being on the show and hanging out with us and sharing some of your wisdom with our audience. And thank you for listening to The Friday Habit. If you go to thefridayhabit.com, there you can find show notes for this episode and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can find our download that will show you how to spend more time working on your business instead of in your business.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review. And if you have any ideas for guests or anything you'd like us to cover, just shoot us an email at hello@thefridayhabit.com.
That's right. And remember, until next time, live every day like it's Friday.